So
Yeah.
right in the top of my head, it starts to slowly thin, while everything around was just like full as can be, whether at my workplace or going to parties, or going anywhere basically. I was feeling a little bit, am I lacking something physically? Is this something because it seems to be frowned upon in society where advertisement, oh, great set of hair, you're a superstar, all that kind of stories. Like during the time when
Yeah.
I was subconscious about it, lacking confident about my area, I thought it was going to affect my dating experience and my
Right.
sex
But it
life
didn't.
and everything. It didn't. Like I
Great.
found out by just experiencing and experimenting on myself. Oh, who's going to appreciate my bald spot, or who's going to do this, or who's going to none of that. It's just another level of confidence.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the podcast. This one, a really, really fun one. I just wanted to let you know, stick with this podcast, okay? We lay the foundations in the first few minutes and the energy builds and builds and builds. A lot of interesting stories in this one, a lot of information, a lot of tips that are really gonna help you. So please watch this one, really enjoy it. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a drink, coffee, whatever you need to do, and enjoy this episode of the Baldcafe podcast.
And welcome to the Baldcafe podcast. This is now episode 43. We're here with Vin. He's joining us from Chicago, 32 years old. Vin, it's a pleasure to have you on here, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. We're going to jump, we're going to get all into that stuff. We've got a lot to talk about. This is quite a powerful story. I just hope that by, again, having this conversation, sharing your story is going to encourage someone else to kind of, take hold of those insecurities, whether it's hair loss, maybe there's other people that watch this podcast for different reasons. But we hope it helps them by having this conversation. It's a pleasure to have you here. Why don't you start from the top, where it all began, with the hair loss, with discovering you were kind of losing your hair, and we're here to listen, man, so go for it.
All right, I'm gonna hit it off. So, if I can kind of recall back and go back in time, so I'm 32 now, and I think it sort of started back in high school. I saw a little bit of a thinning phase through kind of like high school, but I barely saw it. It's only when I start hitting college and going to Japan to study there that I noticed one of my buddies. We always hang around. He called me out on it. He's like, "Vin, what's going on, brother?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "There's something on your hair, or something. You're missing something. There's some unevenness or whatever it is." And I looked in the mirror and everything, and it looked fine to me, but that was the beginning of the thinning phase,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
right in the top of my head, it starts to slowly thin, while everything around was just like full as can be. Because I come from a family line that's, my brothers and sisters have a great set of hair.
Right.
And so I start to start doubting that during college and high school and all that kind of stuff. Like, what's going on? Is it a vitamin deficiency? Is it
Right.
whatever? Um, and I didn't pay a lot of close attention to it until the Peace Corps. So I
Right.
was in the Peace Corps serving in Mongolia for about 2, 3 years. And then people start noticing, Vin, oh my God, what's going on here? So the spot was thinning, but then it was expanding
Right.
to create like a circle area, as you know what I mean? Yeah, the
Yeah.
crown they call it, but expanded on all sides. And so during that time frame, I remember I was talking about earlier about the vitamin deficiency. I started taking vitamins, aromatherapy,
Yeah.
some of those listening to sounds, the subconscious mind thingy
Yeah.
that you listen, onions, fenugreek. What I put all kinds of shit on my head.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I did it very inconsistently, and so
Right.
I'm sure some people swear that it worked for them, Harry, but I'm sure it probably did with a huge dose of placebo, of course. But for me, I tried everything, um, all up to the point of what the story is about, right? My brother and a few other things. But
Yeah.
go ahead, you had a
So
question. Go ahead.
yeah, so before we touch on that, so you are very much a fan of look into the sort of natural remedies into these things, right? So you were kind of
Mhm.
thinking like, okay, what's the cause of this hair loss? Is it stress? Is it, I'm unhealthy? And you were
Yeah,
very much looking to do the natural remedies.
right.
I wanna ask you specifically, right, with the
Sure.
onion juice and things like that, because I did a video on this because I was like, right, I can't, I was looking at the stories and I thought, come on, like this cannot be a thing. But
Yeah,
like when I did the video about hair fibers, I was like, I can't just like talk down on something I've never done, or I've never
Right.
actually, maybe not tried for years, but experienced. So was it literally like, you get the onions and you were whizzing it up and putting it on your rubbing it in the scalp, and what would you do? Sleep with that? Just describe the process for me a bit.
Yeah. So for me, so when I first started, I was trying to look for alternate solutions compared to Rogaine because I didn't like the whole chemical
Chemicals.
detrimental kind of side effects.
Yeah.
And so when I saw this onion thing, I'm like, why not? And I was reading some videos and some articles on it. Apparently, it's supposed to stimulate your hair and all that kind of stuff. So I applied it, kept it for maybe like an hour or so after
Right.
a workout or during a workout, and then go and just take a shower real quick. Now, I could tell you for sure, at least from my personal reflection on it, is that the onion juice, it creates a tingly sensation, probably from the acid in it.
Yeah.
So I was feeling this tingling sensation as if my follicles are reacting to it, which I thought was a great sign.
Mm.
So I'm sure that led to a lot of placebo and different things that may have really helped certain folks grow even better
Yeah.
hair. But for me at that time, I was looking for a quick, fast solution, and it required too much time, maybe like a
Yeah.
year, 2 years, 3 years of doing it. And so I kind of fell out of place here and there. But I think to all the people listening at home, some of these alternate remedies may work for some folks. I can't
Mhm.
speak for everyone. It didn't work for me, so it's okay. It is what
Yeah.
it is. But hopefully that answers your question. From that to
Yeah.
fenugreek, I mixed fenugreek in there too. I heard stories in India where fenugreek was great and
Yeah.
helped out. I'm sure you read about that as well.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting you talk about the placebo side of things as well, because again, with the onion juice, I don't, because these videos, you see a lot of the videos on YouTube and stuff like that. They're often combined with things like headstands and scalp massaging and things like that.
yeah,
I I'm of the belief that maybe not for sort of genetic androgenic alopecia, right? Male pattern baldness specifically. Maybe if you've experienced some like hair thinning because you are super stressed out, or you genuinely do have a really bad diet and not been sleeping right, and then if you see your hair falling out as well, that just
mm,
adds fuel to the fire and you're stressing out even more. So I
mhm,
think if it's hair loss due to some other cause like that, then like you said, right, if you start doing these, the onion juice and stuff like that, and you start to you want it to work, and you're doing it, and you, like you said, you feel the tingling and
mhm,
stuff, and you start to, that reduces your anxiety towards it, reduces your stress, and you start to
yeah,
see like, oh, I think it's coming back, and then you're happy that it's coming back. And
oh
in
yeah,
that case, I can see that it might have some effect, but I don't think it's specifically like the onion juice, and I also think that a lot of that stuff just doesn't work for genetic sort of
mm,
androgenic
mhm,
alopecia, because and I think even the people who are into like the Rogaine, the Propecia and stuff
mhm,
would agree with that, because they're very much of the thought that it's very much due to the DHT in
right,
reacting to
right.
the follicles, which is why the hair's falling out. And onion juice isn't going to really do anything to suppress that or whatnot. But
Mhm.
no, it's interesting. Did you try any of the, like, even the more extreme ones like headstands, scalp massages? Did you do any of those things, or it didn't go that far?
I I was curious about it. I don't get me wrong. I was curious about it, Harry, and I thought about it, but I've never got the feel to do it. Because there was the roller, the roller where it
Yeah,
creates
rolling.
the
Yeah.
punctures. Yeah, I was planning to get that and try that out, but you know what? I thought to myself, I've done everything, and up to the point to my brother's thing, and sort of like, why not? And so that's why I went to this phase, which I'm feeling loving, coming, enjoying this phase, do my dances with it. But yeah, all the alternative ways to address it, I've tried, but except for some of the stuff that you've said.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So at this time, you're in the Peace Corps, you're
Mm,
in Mongolia, things like that. You just
yeah.
finished college, right?
Yep.
And how old are you at this point?
At this point, great question. I was probably 23,
Okay.
23 years old,
Yeah.
23, 24.
So young guy, experiencing the hair loss. In looking back on that time, obviously it was a little while ago. Can you remember, like, was it a thing that played on your mind quite a lot, something that you stressed out about a lot? Did it sort of affect your
Oh yeah,
your life in negative ways? Can you maybe describe some of those
sure,
situations that you found yourself in?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was thinning, going through the thinning phase, and then obviously the space was growing a little bit more, I was a bit more self-conscious of it. whether at my workplace or going to parties, going anywhere basically. I was feeling a little bit, am I lacking something physically? Is this something because it seems to be frowned upon in society where advertisement, oh, a great set of hair, you're a superstar, all that kind of stories.
Mm-mm-mm.
It was up to the point where I began to experiment with that. And what I mean by that, Harry, is that I want to see if that affected my love life, my dating life.
Right.
And to my surprise, then compared to now, very interesting because you know eh, the fact that being positive, confident, showing your character, that is very high on the list for the ladies because I had some success, for sure.
Yeah.
Whether I'm
Yeah.
thinning or not, it doesn't stop the offset of pheromones.
Yeah.
But what stops pheromones? Stress, like you were talking about earlier. Stress, looking down on yourself, thinking that you're not enough, thinking that you're lacking something.
Yeah.
That definitely played a phase when I was younger, and then when it led to me becoming more mature, I began to understand that it's not just the physical. We'll get to it for sure, Harry. But it's also the spiritual, the mental side of it that 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 really is more important
Yeah.
than just the physical side of it. Because once you
Appearance.
do this, right? Once you do this, it's also you have to embrace it physically,
Yeah.
mentally, psychologically, spiritually. Everything becomes you. Aligning all those three are so important to
Yeah.
being a wholesome person. So I hope that kind of led to the answer from then to now has changed
Yeah.
a lot. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned there with dating and things like that, and it sounds like you know, what you're saying basically is obviously now being much more comfortable in yourself.
Oh yeah.
You're far more successful in those sorts of areas. So then when the hair was thinning, then did you found yourself when approaching people or in social situations being
Yeah.
less confident and concerned about it,
No, no,
or not or
actually,
not?
no, at that time, now and then, let's go back in time for a second. During the time when
Yeah.
I was subconscious about it, lacking confident about my area, I thought it was gonna affect my dating experience and my
Right,
sex
but it
life
didn't.
and everything. It didn't. Like I
Great.
found out by just experiencing and experimenting on myself. Let's see if it does. Let's see if girls think that thinning is a bad thing or whatever.
Okay.
I I still got success regardless. So the
Yeah.
girls will look at you and see you, okay, he's thinning, whatever. But then what else are you gonna offer to the table? So I
Yeah.
showed her my confidence, I showed her my charm, my humor, and that scores points immediately, putting that physical potential discomfort way down on her list
Yeah.
of things to check off. You know what I mean?
So even during the thinning stage, then you were sort of aware enough of the situation and of yourself to, you weren't so affected by it that it caused you to have those negative sort of thoughts about yourself. You kind of thought, oh, this is what people are assuming it should be, but hey, I'm not going to let this thinning hair kind of stop me.
Right,
Like I need to just go out there and let's just do this, thinning hair or no thinning hair, right?
right, right. That's why I
Great.
kept it to almost last year when the things with my brother happened. I kept it all the way to
Yeah.
that point,
Yeah.
thinking that you know what, I'm gonna live with this. I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm gonna be confident. Da 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 da.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Until that point where I
Yeah.
decided to try it out to see how it feels.
Yeah.
So
So right, okay, interesting. So we're learning more. So the hair was thinning and you were trying these sort of natural remedies and things like that, but you kind of figured out for yourself almost, I guess, that
mm,
if you didn't let this, thinning hair and stuff kind of stop you, then it
right.
wouldn't. Is that right?
Right, right. So
Okay,
I kind of
interesting.
changed the gear in my head, thinking that you know what, it is what it is. I gotta align myself with who I am really inside. That's more important to me.
Mm-mm-mm.
So it was a battle with Finn, and then at that time when I won that battle, at least some of the battles, I began to realize that people look at you as you are. Whether if you are conscious about your bald spot too much, then they look at you as a person being conscious about your bald spot all the time. But if
Yeah,
you're a person with a bald spot or a thinning area, but you're confident and you're living your life the way you are, you accept it yourself, it shows up in a different energy. And I began
yeah,
to immerse myself and swim in that energy, and it was okay. It was fine. I was feeling fine with it.
yeah.
Yeah, until the point where I wanted to try this new look out, and I'm beginning to love it as well. So it's
Brilliant.
interesting. Hmm.
It is interesting. So, and what gave you that sort of that switch in your sort of mind frame back, from when the hair, in the college when the hair was kind of thinning and falling out, and then I'm assuming then it was for a short time, it was a bit of a problem. Like it did
Oh
get you
yeah.
down, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
so what changed for you? When did you kind of decide like, hey, I need to stop letting this like, affect me so negatively?
Mhm. So for me, I'm glad you asked that question, Harry, because for me, I've went through about 7 life-death experiences.
Right.
Uh, Poisoned twice. I drowned twice. I was climbing Mount Fuji, unprepared because I was reckless. You know what I mean? I was doing whatever I was gonna do to enjoy life. So I was
Right.
coming up there with a t-shirt like this. I was
Yeah.
just climbing a mountain with a t-shirt like this, and up there was negative 20 degrees. So, and so I almost died, and someone saved me because I almost fell over from high altitude sickness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And someone saved me, and just from all those experiences, it's kind of led to me looking at life on a different perspective and with a different lens.
Yeah.
Is this gonna fuck up the rest of my life? This little thinning phase up here. Am I gonna let this over my entire life? So I thought about that over and over during my Peace Corps college days. I mean, I was like, fuck it, let's go live life. And so
Yeah.
from then on, the switch in confidence, the switch in that really made a difference. Now, prior to that was a different story. Prior to that, like you were saying, alluding to, I had issues with confidence. I had issues with accepting this change because, like I said earlier, my family had a great set of hair. I felt
Yeah.
like the odd one out. Why am
Yeah.
I the odd one out? Like, what's going on? I feel like the black duck in the family. You know what I mean? What's going on?
Yeah.
And so that's why I was trying to figure that all out, and going through those phases, facing life and death a couple of times, made me realize that the more nocebo effect, that I look at my head and use that as the channel to react in the world or live my life, was very detrimental to me overall. So I pounded to the wall and put that self to a different side of me, or that particular negative self aside, and just decided to live life the way it should be lived, by enjoying every moment, because I almost died a couple of times. Every time
Yeah.
you come back, you get a little stronger. Every time you just,
Yeah.
so.
So, I mean, you've had a lot of reality checks, and we talk a lot about how for most people, if you can actually see it from a sort of optimistic viewpoint, then for
Yeah.
a lot of young men, losing their hair is almost like a soft reminder of that mortality.
Hmm.
It's like a soft reminder of like, hey, like, not this whole life thing, not everything's just swimming and perfect as
Right.
it has been up until this point.
Right.
So, make sure you're living your life, make sure you're working hard, make sure you're achieving things that you want to live. And I think when guys, a lot of guys find that when they go through this hair loss thing and they shave it off, it makes them like, honestly, it makes them give less fucks,
Hmm.
about like stuff that they
I
just
like that.
shouldn't be worrying about, and they're like, they get that feeling of freedom, and they go on to do like so much better things. And so if you look at it like that, the whole hair loss thing is actually kind of lucky in some ways, just that soft reminder, like, hey man, you need to be living this life.
Hmm.
For you, obviously crazy, like sounds like you've had a lot of those like wake up, those moments where it's like, hey dude,
Yep. Yep.
Finn, you're not going to be here forever.
That's right.
And life isn't all roses, so let's crack on.
Hmm.
I want to come back to you just saying that you've been poisoned twice and things like that. Maybe,
Sure.
I'd love to hear those stories. But for you, of course, we've mentioned your brother a few times, right?
Yep.
And this was a
Yep.
big life-changing event for you. So let's
Yep.
move on to that topic. And if you could, just to explain a little,
Sure.
as much as you want to, a little bit about that and how that sort of came to your decision of like, hey, let's just shave this head off, try this new look, and really go for it now.
Sure. Sure. So we got to go back a few months. It was November 19, 2019, and my brother passed. I saw him that Sunday. And then 2 days later, he was doing his thing, and he passed away 2 days later. And his last two words, or a couple words to me, when I dropped him off, was just like, "Live your life, do right, do your thing." Um, and he was suffering from a lot of mental illnesses. And so it took a lot from him. And growing up, me and him were very tight because, you know,
Mm.
you ever have, a tight bro. And so just seeing him going through that and suffering from that hurt me a lot throughout my life because you never want anyone in your family to hurt. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And so, right. And so, passing forward, he passed away. And then I remember those 2 words or a few words he was saying, just be strong, live your life. It led up to December 12th, 2019, a couple of days prior to Christmas. And I held his picture and I looked at it. You know what I mean? I was having a conversation with him as if he's there.
Mm.
And all my life now, we're going back in time here, okay? Oh, going back in time with my thinning phase to my my confident phase. And then suddenly, why not phase? Why not give this a shot? Why not try it out? Get the whole picture, try the whole face, do the whole circle. You know what I mean? Do the whole thing. So, okay, let's give it a go. My brother's like, Ben, do your thing. And so it was a whole epic family affair. Now I'm in the bathroom, in the bathtub. My dad, an ex-military Vietnam vet, shaving my head at 70 years old. My mom sitting on the toilet with a cane, pointing at spots that my dad missed because he has bad eyesight. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was a moment in time, and I cherish that moment today. And so as they were doing it, hair pieces were coming down, things were going. I don't know how I was looking. I don't know. I didn't see the mirror yet, right?
Yeah.
But like you were talking about the reminder of mortality and things like that. Uh, every drop of hair that was coming down, I felt like I was letting go of my attachment to appearance, attachment
Mm.
to things having to be a certain way to be accepted by
Superficial things.
society.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You have to have a Louis Vuitton to be considered high class. You have to. Everything was dropping down and reminding me, like you were saying, about how important life is, and also at the same time reducing all that attachment I had with appearance,
Yeah.
that it wasn't important to me anymore. You know what I mean? And like you were saying, there's a sense of freedom. I was like released. I was like a dragon in the making. I was like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. It was an overwhelming feeling of joy, you can say. But at the same time, I felt that you may have already been aligned to this, but spiritually, mentally, and physically, I felt like I was aligning it now. In a
Mm,
sense,
mm,
it
mm.
sounds like it's all happening at one moment. It was a rush of energy, like you're about to fight a war or something. It's just like
Yeah.
but it's a war with yourself, and you are winning. And it was a great, overwhelming feeling, Harry. And my dad he looked at me a couple of times, like, okay, all right, son. And
Yeah.
my mom, everyone's just shocked. Now, let's. I want to tell you. I know the next story, questions. So I'm just gonna answer forward. My neighbors, my colleagues, my friends and family, everybody. There was a lot of conflicting aspects. Some
Right.
were saying, "Why?" and some were saying, "You look good back in the day," or some say, "Oh, why did you do that?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or you look great, da 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 da. All kinds of different messages. But what's amazing is, remember that feeling I was telling you about, coming out like a dragon. I'm feeling free, stronger, da, 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 mentally,
Yeah.
physically, spiritually. One by one, they were beginning to fall in love with me. Just
Yeah.
Vin, just Vin. That's it. And it was just for them was amazing. For me, it was amazing. It
Because
was
you
a
were
new
feeling,
relationship.
because you were
Yeah,
feeling like yourself. Did you get that? Like you felt more like
yeah.
yourself. Like I'm not worried about these other things. I'm just me doing me now. And
That's right.
people kind of, and that's like the, like you said, the energy. That's the you give out to these people, right?
Right. And it's
Yeah.
amazing because how when you change the way you look at yourself, the people around you just change automatically. Now, I don't get to not to get to quantum physical or physical, whatever it is with it, but we're made of energy, right? Chemical
Yeah.
reactions and things. When you're changing your chemical reactions, people around you are changing as well. They're all energy. And so
The vibes.
it's
They were
just
feeling the vibes. That's how
they
I would
were feeling
describe
the
it.
vibes. There you
Yeah.
go. They were feeling the vibes and they were dancing to it. There you
Yeah.
go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bruno
No, but it's
Mars
true.
song.
You,
Yeah, there
you
you go.
when you're you feel like more yourself, you're feeling happier, you're feeling more confident, like you said, you're not worrying about those sort of all these extra stuff that we worry about all the time. We've had that reality check. There is a different energy to you. Genuinely there is. Not to get, you described it as quantum physical. I describe it as hocus pocus, but it's true. It's true. Like, it's a different vibe. And you hear people guys saying all the time, I was shaving it off and I was just buzzing instantly, pun intended. And it's just a great thing. And I respect that. And it's also interesting how people warm up to it, and it does just not become a thing. Really quickly, I just want to ask, so with the people who were saying to you, like, that, why did you do that, or like, no, you look better back in the day.
Yeah.
How did it make you feel, where if I think I know the answer, but if someone's like, I think you look better in the day, how did that make you feel, and how did you respond to that?
Great question, man. Great question. So the more they were saying that, the more, like, you ever watch Dragon Ball Z? How they level,
yeah.
They level up to the next level, to the next level.
Yeah.
The more confirming and more accepting I was.
Yeah.
So I was like, bring it on. Tell me more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's the crazy part. When their words were not affecting me anymore, as it did in the past, they begin to change. They just begin to, like, you'll see it in them. Like, a week later, they're like, "Hey, Vin, you look great." Or another week later, "Vin, you know what? Maybe I should try that out too." You know what I mean? It just keeps going on and on till they become part of your parade.
No, I'm glad you said that. That's the answer that I thought you were going to say, and I can relate. This just really quickly. I had it with my colleagues when I was in China, and I shaved it off, and most people would consider, would said, "Oh, you shaved it off too early, or you had loads of hair left, or whatever." But I was putting on a good front to these people, when I was worrying about this hair, and obviously I didn't say anything, or because I didn't want anyone to notice. I didn't want anyone to comment about it. And there's something so powerful after having been in that negative sort of space, when you can go up to someone and be like, like, you feel so good, you feel so confident and so secure in yourself that you can go up to someone who you were previously so terrified about them finding out that your hair was falling out, and just be like, like, last month my hair was falling out, I was like so sad about it, I wasn't just a shell of the man I once was, and so I shaved it off, and this is me now. And you might think I looked better before, but I feel bloody brilliant. I feel fantastic.
That's what I'm talking about.
And this is me doing me. So don't worry about me. Like, if this is going to be a thing, like, where you're going to keep commenting on about it, then let me know, because maybe you need some help with overcoming what you need to overcome, whatever. And hey, I've got experience in that field, so anytime you want to talk, let's talk.
Pound, brother, pound.
And exactly. And usually after that conversation, people are just like, oh yeah, fair enough, and it was such a, like, they came in like real negative, like, like, why have you done that? Right. And when you kind of explain like that, they're like, oh, right, like, I didn't realize, like, fair enough, and that's such a great thing to be able to do. And again, just more reasons why I love having these conversations and sharing it, so more people can experience that, more people can experience that growth. It's you've described it in so many different ways, but it's genuine, like, growth in yourself, this experience, like I just said there, that was once such a negative, whether it's the hair loss wasn't negative, or for you were saying, like, just that attachment to the sort of, like, physical things and whatnot. Once you just go through it and realize none of that stuff matters, it's a powerful thing, really powerful. So after, you've been living this life now, obviously you've noticed some big changes, So what did we touch on? Just, you've mentioned some already, but maybe other areas, maybe it's kick-started, positivity, and you, like, working on new things, better things. And then we'll finish off just with some advice for the people. So, how's it kind of made you sort of ascend?
Wow, good question.
That's Dragon Ball Z reference.
Hey, Super Saiyan 3, ascend to the next level. Saiyan level. You know what? How do I say it? I'll put it this way. When you free up some time from your schedule, You have
Yeah.
more time to do something that's important to you, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
for me, I freed up all that concern I had with my bald spot, and all that time and all that energy was moved towards fitness, was moved towards health, was moved towards success at my work,
Hmm.
relationships with my family and friends. I was confident more in terms of my relationships with the ladies, even who I want in my life, who I need in my life. I can make that decision now because I'm very confident in kind of angling in what I want in my life instead of, oh, who's going to appreciate my bald spot or who's going to do this or who's going to, none of that. It's just another level of confidence that comes, and of course the positivity that's generated from that freedom of letting go of certain things that are dragging you down has overwhelming positive all over the place, written all over the place. And so that has shown to, and people, all my friends and family can kind of like even testify to that. Like Vin
Yeah.
has been just another level up, same Vin, still the same Vin, but just another level in terms of aligning the three things I was telling you about: the
Yeah.
physical, the psychological, and the spiritual side of it was the most
Hmm.
important thing that came out of this.
Yeah.
Other, shape your own head is one thing, but those three things needs to be aligned to truly be wholesome, positive, confident in all areas of life, not just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. But it was obviously, the catalyst for that was kind of choosing to get rid of this thing that you were like, it was playing on your mind and you were thinking about, and it just unnecessarily, right? So it was the removal of that that kind of gave you that reality check almost.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, kickstart, and then there was obviously the another catalyst with your brother
Sure.
that made you turn to that action. So let's go for some advice for the people.
Sure.
This is the good thing about Baldcafe. This is probably how you come to kind of discover it,
Yep.
because we have these conversations, right? We have these conversations about hair loss and other things, obviously, that it seems like society, whatever that word means, is kind of afraid to have and sees as a taboo. And so I think it's a great thing that all these guys now on this channel can come here and just talk about it and be like, yeah, just so that admitting like that there was a time or is a time where you're feeling terrible about something like hair loss, something like your own appearance and things like that, is the first step towards like overcoming that, accepting it and overcoming it,
Right.
and realizing that you can do so. So, from your own experience, things that have really helped you, even down to some daily practices or just how you treat people. Let's go a bit deeper, because I've had a lot of fun having in this conversation. Usually you got the same advice. Of course, yeah, okay, shave off the thin hair. Appreciate yourself. But yeah, go for it, man. Like little things, whether how big, how small, things that have really helped you come
Right.
to this sort of point in your life.
Okay, rock and roll. Thanks, Harry. So for me, if I can give any advice to all my brothers and sisters out there who are thinking about this or going through this particular project, and I call it a project because I think everything in life is an experiment. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
We're
And
always
so,
working at something, always working
right,
towards something, or it's a constant
right,
journey in it, progress. Yeah.
right. And you see what works for you see what doesn't, you see where there's weakness that you can turn into strengths and whatnot. And so my advice is always is have that conversation with yourself. Continue to have that conversation with yourself, not relying on the externals to fix what's internal. You see what I'm
Mm,
saying? A lot of times people tend to let the external fix the internal, but it doesn't work that way all the time.
mm,
So having that conversation with yourself, whether spiritually, with your brother, with family members, with God, Buddha, whoever people believe in, have that conversation, but mainly with yourself, to make a decision whether you're going through the thinning phase, bald spots phase, or even shaving your head, to align the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, and to make that decision to shave, because it's ultimately a decision that you need to be aligned in those areas to make it. Because if you do one and you lack the other two, then it doesn't come in proportion of how you are as a
mm.
person
Doesn't
fully.
doesn't
You feel
solve
me?
the problem, right?
Right. You
If
could
you only
be
if you're only
bald,
working on one.
right? Because you could
Mm,
be bald, but then be conscious of being bald
mm,
consistently and let that affect your entire work or you can miss that psychologically and stress about it every day. So you might be okay in one area but slacking on two. So aligning those three starts with a conversation with yourself consistently, and that can come in the form, for me sometimes, with meditation, emptying the mind, coming back to the center, not weighing to the left, not weighing to the right, not being too crazy happy, not being too crazy sad, but coming to the middle to make a decision that's best for my life. And so there's a saying, and I can't say it enough because it's amazing. Uh, if not now, when? If not you, then who is going to do it? Right? And as I was saying before, it's just an experiment, and life is almost like an experiment to become your true self. So why not try things differently, and try every anything and everything? Why not? You know what I mean? Because life is so short. And so that's my biggest advice, is going back again, is to enjoy every single moment, try every little thing, have a conversation with yourself consistently, and whatever decision you make coming out of that, whether to keep the hair, to allow it to continue thinning, or to shave your head, or shave and let it grow back again, align those three things: physical, mental, and spiritual, because that is so important for me at this point. Because it's like I said, you can't have one and lack on the two. You can't have two and lack on the third one. You got to have it all, at least coming aligned, all the chakras to be aligned. But yeah,
I think it's there's loads of interesting points to pick up on. I think because my worry as well, and you're right, there, you know, it is true. If you have to work on all of those different aspects, and I think that's why when I give out the advice is obviously for people to have, like you said, the way you described it, have that conversation with yourself. I put out that video recently about like 10 steps to building the courage to go for it. And one of those things is I say to people, write down a list of all the things that you're good at, right? And also write a list about all of the things that you're afraid of, all of the negative things that are happening and or you're thinking about because of this hair loss, right? So that when you come to do it, you can look at those things as like, okay, these are the things that I'm overcoming here, right? And I think that's the thing. That is a way for people to sit down, no distractions, and have that conversation with themselves as you described it. Also, you made a really interesting point about not relying on like physical things to sort out like what's in here. Is that, I can't remember what you said exactly.
Right.
And I think that's one of the powerful things, and it's literally how you described it. One of the most powerful things about shaving off the hair is you're literally removing that physical thing that is causing all that craziness and all that worry and making it hard for you to really concentrate on who you are, what you want to do, you know? So if there's any way to sort of give a dictionary definition of like what that is, I think that's it. You know, when you shave it off, why does it make you feel like that? I think that's a big part of it, right? You're physically removing that thing that is causing you all that worry, causing you to think all these crazy things like, oh, these people are going to think I'm look weird. I'm never going to get laid again. I'm never going to get a job. And it just, once it's gone, you know, the thinning hair, once it's gone, you're like, okay, this is me now, like bare bones. And you start to look inside, like you said, you start to look inside, what's important to me? What do I want to be doing here? And also, last thing I want to say is like, I think this is, and Mike, I did a podcast, right, with a guy called Mike Delaney, and he's a big jacked dude, right? He's like a fitness guy on Instagram, great guy. Really enjoyed that one. He loves his history. And he said that he kind of like put on a little bit of a bravado to like when he did it, it was almost like fake it till you make it type thing, right? Where it was like, he was like, oh, not like overcompensating, but he almost saw it as like a disadvantage. You know, if he was like, right, I've got no hair now, and people, again, society, people say to me that now I'm screwed in life. Like we just said, never going to get laid. No one's going to talk to me. No one's going to like me. And it's almost like game on, you know, it's like, all right, you see it as a challenge, you know, it's like that should, if anything, that should get you more excited. That should get you, when all those successes do come, right? I genuinely, by the way, don't think that it's not going to hold you back if you don't let it. But hey, if loads of people do think like that, if people are going to give you less of a chance because of that, then more power to you when you succeed in all those things despite having no hair. Do you know what I mean? And you should be like, okay, right, I've done this, like, let's overcome all these obstacles. It's like, what's next all the time. And again, it's just more and more positives that come through this, rather than, like how you said, relying on those like physical and outward things, like even like we said, like the bags, the watches, the cars, the perfect hair, relying on those things to make you feel like grounded and aligned, as you described it. So it's all interesting stuff. It's all interesting stuff.
And I'll add, Harry. I want to add one more thing. Is to that is, remember I was telling you earlier about my dad and my mom. So
Yeah.
it can always be a family affair too.
Yeah.
It can be with the closest people you have with you, who are like with you from the start to the end. People who care about you truly, and they can be part of that journey. Allow them to be part of that journey. It doesn't have to be by ourselves. We can be with someone we love and care about, for us, to be with us along the journey. So,
I love that. I love that. And make an event of it. Like you said, look, it's something to look back on and enjoy. And it is something. It's 100% you moving forward. You're not giving up on anything. You haven't failed. It is genuinely, when you take that step, it is you deciding that you are moving forward with your life. Yeah. You're moving past those insecurities, and you're going to go get it, despite, you're just going to go get it. So,
that's
Vin,
right.
This has been, Vin, I really enjoyed that, man. I think I really enjoyed that conversation. The energy was there. I'm so glad we put this one together. Heard it here, people. Go get it. Make that decision. Look inside. Really sit down and think about it. Yeah, what's important to you? Just go get it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode of the Baldcafe podcast. Goodbye.
Like Biwa in Japan, freaking badass place. Boys, girls, a bunch of hot girls, a bunch of cool guys just hanging out. And I can't swim, okay?
Right.
But I want to hang with the big boys. So I'm trying to swim for no reason. I'm just hanging out there. And then I held on to my buddy, and I slipped. So I'm at the 5-foot water. I'm about 5'7". Now I'm hitting the 6-foot water, 6 feet water, whatever.
In a lake, right? In a
lake. So things were kind of like, happening. And so I was pretty much drowning. But the thing is, I had my best friend with me. So I held on to him around the neck. I was like, dude, I can't swim. I was screaming in his ear, Harry. And he just looked at me and he pushed me away.
Really?
So now I'm really drowning. So I was really drowning now. And so I could just see a glimpse of somebody coming at me. I remember this. And you ever get those friends, Harry, where you sort of like say hi to them and bye to them? Those hi and bye friends or people around? Like, hey, John, acquaintances. Yeah, have a good day, John, neighbor, whatever. Yeah. And well, one of those person came and saved my life.
Right.
He was in the Korean military, so he knew how to swim. He was just doing his thing, and he was just one of those hi bye kind of guys, friends. And so imagine this: on one hand, you have your best friend leaving you on your right eye. On your left eye, this person you barely know comes and saves your life. So ever since then, my perspective of how to treat people has changed. Just like my thinning phase you were talking about, this sense of like treating people fairly, treating people, even treat your best friend or a stranger the same, with as much love and care as possible, because you never know how they will impact your life. So that was my first death experience. And then the poisoning one was definitely when I was in Mongolia. Carbon monoxide poisoning is a real, bro. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I was because I lived in a tent for 2 years in the middle of nowhere in Mongolia, in the steppes, negative 20 degrees, negative 30 degrees.
This is when you're in the Peace Corps.
I was in the Peace Corps, in Mongolia. Yeah. I was a teacher. I was teaching, helping people in the village. Yeah. And you got to make fire to stay warm. So I was burning dung, I was burning wood, I was burning coal. Now, I didn't burn the coal correctly. So all the carbon monoxide was seeping back into my tent that I lived in. It was maybe like a 10-foot tent surrounded by sheepskin to stay warm. And I remember, you ever watch Kill Bill?
Yeah.
This first one where she was like paralyzed and she was trying to wiggle her big toe.
Yeah.
That scene? Yep. Yeah. So I was trying to my eyes were open, but my body was paralyzed because I had no oxygen left in my body.
Really?
And I almost died. And there was a crack in the tent, and there's just as if a spirit or somebody just blew some air in my face. I had just enough, Harry, to roll out of the bed and just like struggling for life, man. I didn't want to die, bro. I really was just struggling to get out the door, and I got out. I was like, it was at the whole, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you breathing and all that. So that was scary. That was when you're
Yeah.
paralyzed and can't move. That was I almost.
So what was it? You just like you have a little coal fire in the middle of the tent, and
Mhm.
what they're just like you ventilate. You didn't have it like properly ventilated.
There was a
So
ventilation. There was ventilation up in the pipe that goes out with all the
yeah,
air. But the thing was, it wasn't properly cleaned, and so that
right,
pipe was kind of semi-clogged or whatever. So it went back. It
right,
went back down the pipe, and then it went back into my
yeah.
tent,
And
which
then
was closed.
you
I
fell
fell.
asleep,
Yeah, I was
and then
sleeping.
you're just not breathing properly. You're just breathing in this carbon monoxide.
Yeah, I was breathing tons of carbon dioxide. So when I opened up my eyes, my whole body was paralyzed. I couldn't
Yeah.
do anything. I was like, this is it, man. I feel like, oh my God,
Oh,
I didn't think that
no
was even
way.
possible.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
you managed to just roll out and stick your head out the tent, I guess, and get some
Yep,
air.
that's pretty
That's
much it.
crazy, man.
That's
That's
freaking
crazy.
crazy. And a
You
couple
need to
other
keep,
stories.
yeah, keep going, man. I want to hear these.
Sure,
You
sure.
said you up in Japan as well. No, you said there was another poisoning one. Was that the same thing
Well,
again?
yeah, same thing happened twice.
Oh my god.
Whatever it was, man, I was lucky. So twice until I really learned until the villagers came. They're like, okay, we can't have this volunteer die on us. And so they
Yeah,
came and they changed my entire stove thing that I used to put
yeah,
coal in, and I was fine after that. And
wow.
so yeah, and then Japan was crazy because I was a young kid at the time, 19, and I wanted to do something crazy just to live life. So I said,
Yeah,
you know what? Today I'm gonna go climb Mount Fuji, Harry. And I went up there with my sleeveless shirt, as you see, and everyone looked at. It was a really hot day. It was July in Japan.
yes. So when
And
I've been to Japan and I went near the mountain, so like I could see it quite well. But when I went, you couldn't. It was still the season where you like couldn't climb it, right? So I
Mhm.
can, but you could. Obviously, it's always like snow capped, isn't it?
Right.
So it would be warm down the bottom, which
Mhm.
is where you were. So
Right.
carry on.
It was very warm, actually hot in the bottom, like 90 some degrees Fahrenheit, probably like 30, 35, 40 something degrees Celsius. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this in a day and then go home. That's what I was thinking. So I went up there, but as I was going up the mountain, I see people changing their gears. As people are
Mm,
starting going on top, they start putting on more clothes, wrapping their head around with certain things to keep warm. I'm like, what's going on? Is it going to rain or something? What's going on? And the temperature started dropping, man. And and it was crazy because people start to circle around me for no reason. They start to protect me as if I'm one of their own. They took off something and here, Vin, wear this. Oh, here, Vin, hold to this cane or try this or use this towel to cover your head. And it was just, if it wasn't for the strangers, the kindness of strangers, man, again, that saved my life going up the mountain. I wouldn't get to the top,
the top, yeah,
and I wouldn't get to the bottom because
yeah.
I was definitely feeling
You,
the
you
altitude.
were you weren't
Yeah,
prepared at all, right?
no way, no way. But I was
Yeah,
crazy, man. I just want to do everything once.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
it,
yeah, so you almost drowned, almost poisoned from carbon monoxide, and almost well froze to death, hypothermia, right,
uh,
from the
yeah,
mountain. Crazy, crazy.
not you know what? So it goes back to the story we were talking about, man. Just giving everything a chance. Like
Mm,
if all our brothers and sisters out there who are going through this and want to give it a try, try it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? What's not like the worst that could happen is you come back with the realization that it doesn't work, or you can get the rewards of actually works and that you're feeling great and you're feeling confident and you're feeling there's a lot more rewards than there's more pros than cons is what I'm saying.
it's
What do you think?
and it's that thing, isn't it? It's built in us to sort of protect us, keep us safe. That's our innate sort of behavior. So it's like we're most of the time we're thinking what's going to go wrong, what's going to be bad about it. It's good, or you're thinking like it's going to go wrong, I'm going to look terrible, rather than thinking like what if it looks good, like what if I
Right.
do it and I feel fantastic. What if all these people are telling the truth, and I'm going to shave it off and I feel fantastic also, you know. And that's what I encourage people to think. And I think that's a big thing with watching these videos, with hearing these conversations, is it gives people that little bit of belief to think, hey, it's working for these guys. Like, maybe they're right. Maybe it is like that. So maybe I should try it. And I think that's one of the best things about it, you know.